So in the past, I have criticized Drinker. I had made a video that was around 40 minutes long, in fact, where I talked about how I thought his take on the Kenobi show was wrong. But I am seeing him get attacked in ways that are really dumb and stupid. And as I've always said, if someone that I disagree with has, gotten attacked, I will, say something. And that's really the main thing that I disagreed with him on. So I'm not being a hypocrite, alright? I have enjoyed his stuff for a good while now, okay? But let's get into the actual meat and potatoes of what we're going to be talking about today.
Now, everyone knows that the Fandom Menace are the enemy to all fandoms, and they make all fandoms look bad, basically make us fans look retarded. Why? Because all these guys are just basically copy and paste of each other, whether they have balls or a vagina, hairy chests, or boobs. They are all the same. Now, what makes Critical Drinker a little bit of more of a, specially handicapped case of the mind?
So the word you're looking for there, John, is unique. When something is, different from the others, the word we use is unique. Now, we're going to get into what he has to say. I also thought it was interesting how he said that the Fandom Menace is just an all-encompassing thing. In my experience on the internet, it was only like this toxic Star Wars fans, the quote-unquote toxic Star Wars fans. I feel like fans who were just like, what happened to Legends? Why did we just cut it so short? Why did we destroy the length of Legacy Volume 2? But, that's a discussion for a whole nother day and a whole nother channel, which is something that might be on my movie channel. Definitely go check it out. It's called Jackson. I dropped a Rick and Morty video. It may or may not be out depending on when this video gets out, but it's coming out on the 20th. So hopefully you guys can see it. I had no content ID issues with it, but I gotta add a couple finishing touches. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about the Fandom Menace being an all-encompassing thing. I've never seen, Naruto fans be considered a part of the Fandom Menace, considering, the name comes from the Phantom Menace being, a Star Wars thing. It would fit more, in there than like a Death Note hater that's like a toxic fanboy. But hey, let's keep going.
He can't tell the difference between things that are actually good and actually bad anymore. Because when you join the Fandom Menace, or the fandom cult, as I like to call it, you lose the ability to see things objectively, and you can't separate your agenda from the product. So that's the problem that a lot of people seem to have with the Critical Drinker. Now
you might think to yourself, oh, well, surely he has more context to, support these things that he's saying. No, he changes the subject entirely to turf wars after the sentence that he just finished, saying, oh, you can't measure the difference between good and bad. It's like, well, how can you, it's movies. What do you have a movie barometer? You should probably, bring that to show executives and be like, oh, this has an 80 score. People will love it. It's the next Sopranos. It's the next Seinfeld. So he's definitely sitting on a lot of money there. But in all seriousness, who are you to say, oh, this is good definitively and this is bad definitively? When it comes to media, there's no, set objective goal when creating a story. There can be some things that are just like, why did you put that in there? But it's up to personal preference at the end of the day. There's no objective lines or, guidelines that any story has to follow to be considered a story, to be considered good, to be considered, anything. And so for you to think, oh, because I like this, that means other people have to like it, is just dumb and really just closed-minded and unaware of the real world around you.
When you foster a community of toxic individuals and people that can't see things objectively, you're going to get people in the community that are so toxic that they're just going to attack you without much notice, or they're just going to follow their leaders blindly. Now, more so, it's because everything he has done, he makes it his mission, even whether he watches something, which I doubt. The way he reviews these movies, I doubt he watches them. It sounds like he just goes bare bones off a synopsis, or goes off what Neurotic or something would tell him.
That's really ironic coming from you, John, considering that you do not script a single thing you do, and you think that scripting is like super posh or something like that. I don't script over here because it's just not really worth it. I don't think it would be as authentic because I'm just ragging on some random like I am right now. But what I do want to bring up is the fact that he said he doesn't know if the drinker actually watches stuff. Well, I don't even know how you would like, what makes you think that? Like, I wish he would give examples, genuinely, because there's nothing for him to argue off of. And I watch the drinker like regularly, like probably every time he puts out a video, more than likely I'll watch it. So I nothing I am thinking of is coming to mind as someone who watches him often. So if take it with a grain of salt what he's saying here. This is very reminiscent of the time he called Rags a cancer because, oh yeah, you just dislike me. Like, he's literally just being like, oh, you're toxic and you've cultivated a toxic fan base because I said so. Like, oh my goodness. Well, there's a reason this guy's been on YouTube for like, 10 years, and he's still at like 1,000 subscribers, which is higher than me. But this isn't like my main thing. He keeps at it almost like it's his main thing, but like he's been doing it for so long and he hasn't improved. Like, even the audio for like this episode, I almost said, but it's a video. This video, like, he's got like a big old fan running in the background. Audacity is free, okay? I don't have, a Shure SM7V. But let me tell you, there's never going to be any background noise in, something I make because it's not that hard, okay? It's a simple, 20, 30-second fix, and it increases, the quality of the things that you make and you put out so much more. And he's not willing to improve in any way. And that's why he's stuck where he is, throwing little pot shots at people so that he can, gain a little bit of a following, and he continuously fails. So it's interesting to see him try over and over and over again. But hey, I guess patience is a virtue, and so is persistence in his mind.
Of course, the moment you see a woman using superpowers, or if they're not in the kitchen with their feet, basically with their bare foot and pregnant, Critical Drinker seems to have a problem with it, calling movies like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness a highly feminist piece, when really Doctor Strange was still the lead of his own movie and already had character development from his first film. Notice, he likes something a show called Reacher, obviously, because Reacher is about a strong generic white guy. The Northman, a strong generic white guy. But of course, you have to...
So you make it sound like that's the only thing he ever praises, and that's the only thing that he ever, is ever even slightly complimentary of. Well, it's a bad thing for you that I actually have been, actually watching him for a while. And he has always spoken highly of the Tomb Raider series. So,
now, if there's one video game series I enjoy almost as much as Resident Evil, it's Tomb Raider. It was one of those formative games of my childhood. It brings me neatly along to Tomb Raider, the second failed attempt to bring one of the most iconic video game characters in history to the silver screen. The Angelina Jolie movies were a fun and light-hearted take on the franchise that got scuppered by a terrible second entry.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Lara Croft is not a generic white guy, quote unquote. I don't think so. There maybe was some big plot point that I missed, but from everything I saw, it seems like she's, a woman. But, hey, you might know better than me, John. When it comes to Doctor Strange, two things can't be true. He can still be the star of his own movie, and the movie can still have, feminist undertones. Honestly, I feel like America Chavez took more of a center stage in the movie. It felt not that much like a Doctor Strange movie. I didn't see the first one actually, so hey, maybe that's how, the first one was. I don't think so because I listened to a synopsis, but the Multiverse of Madness, it felt like it was more so taking us along for a ride with Doctor Strange, and he was sometimes a passenger in the car, but there were some times where he wouldn't be in the car. And I know that you can kind of say that about, a lot of movies, like, oh, he wasn't in the scene, so he wasn't in the car. But it feels like he wasn't like a driving force in a lot of the plot. I mean, in his own movie, some random is the one to take out the big villain. Scarlet Witch, okay, the woman who was able to completely change the minds of the entire Marvel universe and reshape it so that like Hawkeye was back alive, Peter was married to his high school sweetheart. She was able to recreate a whole new reality. And this is in the comics, to be fair. But they took somebody of that stature, of that level, and they had her taken out by some random teenager that we just got introduced to. And apparently she's going to be in the movies more. And she did an alright job, but I'm ranting way too much about the movie. It is what it is, honestly. I just wish the Scarlet Witch hadn't, been stopped by the power of friendship, and instead have been like really taken down, instead of, hit with like, those like Beat Saber things. Anyway, it is kind of weird that I've been like addressing his points in reverse, that he makes them in the clip. I don't know why I keep doing that, but apparently, the drinker is just talking about, strong, powerful woman. Well, let's take a look at, what's actually being, propped up, being promoted more and more and more. More and more inclusive things are being made, and I personally have no problem with that. But what comes with that, it tends to be, a lot of bad media. It just is how it is. And you can't tell me that there is like, well, I mean, maybe you thought that Batwoman was good, but me personally, I didn't think Batwoman was good. And so when these Mary Sue type characters get introduced and become more and more popularized through like a sense of, we have to create a strong female character without, she can't ever, struggle or anything. She has to be strong from the beginning, in body, mind, soul, and spirit. And she's got to be strong at the end in body, mind, soul, and spirit. And Critical Drinker, among others, happened to step into a void of like, wow, that sucks. I don't like this. And enough people started talking about it, and now it's sort of become a meta, I would say. And bad shows have become somewhat of a content farm on YouTube, which anything can become a content farm. But to say, oh yeah, he just only criticizes, women not being in the kitchen. It's like, it's definitely deeper than that. It's not just predicated on, some weird, like, 1950s type view of people that he would have. I don't know, maybe he does have it. I don't think so. But from what I've seen, there's nothing to really make me assume that. I've actually been going on for a bit, so I'm going to end it off here. This is my longest video in, like, probably of the year. Alright, well, thank you guys so much for watching. Shout out to John Kill 3D. You're still soldiering on. This is a bit of an older video of his, but I noticed that there was, like, a bit of, turmoil surrounding the drinker, as there tends to be with, anybody who criticizes movies. There's always going to be, that sort of, oh my god, you criticize Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, I hate you, blah 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 blah. And, with that sort of thing going on, I found this John Kill 3D video, funnily enough, last night, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to say something about this. So I'm going to end off here. Thank you all so much for watching. If you want more content from me today, I will be putting out that Rick and Morty video as soon as possible. And goodbye.